Welcome to One More Hour, the podcast all about backyard ultras, timed races, and the ultra running mindset of going one more. If you're an ultra runner, a trail or ultra runner curious about the format, or just someone who loves to test your limits, you're in the right place. I'm Jackie Wilson, an ultra marathon and marathon run coach, trail runner, outdoor enthusiast, and backyard ultra expert. On this show, I'll bring you stories, strategies, and conversations with runners, race directors, experts, and more to help you go further, dig deeper, and keep going when everything in you says stop. Thank you so much for joining me for some yards. Let's get started with one more. Welcome back to the One More Hour podcast, your insider's guide to backyard ultras, timed events, and the mindset of going one more. Today's guest lives right in the intersection of performance and something that we don't talk enough about in endurance sports, but is growing some popularity of talking about: mental health. I am joined by Neal Palace, a licensed clinical social worker, a certified mental performance consultant, an ultra running coach, and an athlete himself who works with athletes to really untangle that side of performance. Neal brings a unique perspective because he's not just studying the work, he is actually living it. He is doing it alongside of us. From years in the mental health field to a background in mountain sports and ultra running, he understands firsthand that the pressure, the burnout, the injury, the anxiety, the identity, the overthinking, and the mental spirals that don't just show up in the training plan. In his work, he helps athletes navigate things like that anxiety, that burnout, the injury, and the identity, while also building the skills needed for focus, for confidence, and for consistency when it matters most. So welcome, Neal. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to dig into this topic, and I loved your introduction. That was well researched.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, so, I found you on Instagram a few months ago, and when I find someone that just fascinates me, I really dive in, and I just want to know like everything and learn anything. So, is there anything that I missed or that you want to touch on in your background? I know that it's very expansive there.
I'm kind of, yeah, well, it is very expansive, and then I keep thinking that, it's not that expansive. And then I start thinking about it, and it's like, whoa, it is like an ultra run itself, it just keeps going on and on, and, I'm young at heart, and I'm older, in age. So, but I'm definitely young at heart. So so that's life experience.
I love it. Experience. Yeah. So tell me about your experience with the 23-day Outward Bound course in North Carolina that you did at the age of 17. Because when I first heard about that, it blew me away. Like, how does a 17-year-old come across this? What made you sign up?
You're going to bring tears to my eyes because that is such a strong part of my life. So how does it come about? So junior year of high school, there was a outdoor ed class. Now I grew up in Chicago, so in the northern suburbs of Chicago. You think outdoor ed, what are you going to do? We cross-country skied. We learned how to fly fish without a pond. I mean, and we started rock climbing, and it was, it wasn't with these fancy holds that they've got now. We didn't have indoor gyms then, and we were outdoors on the bleachers with these wooden holds that the guy set, the instructor set up, and I fell in love with it. And then there was a therapist that I was working with at the time when I was 17 who said, I think you'd like this thing called Outward Bound. And I was like, okay, let me check this out. And I looked at the pictures, and this is like my adventure mindset exploded. I mean, I had all these adventures in mind since I was a little kid. I wanted to go, I was like, I wanted to ride my bike across the world, the country, all these things just in my mind. But here was this opportunity to go in the backcountry. I mean, I had been canoeing in Minnesota, and I was like, wow, I get to go in the backcountry. I carry a backpack. I get to go rock climbing. I get to go canoeing. Let me go do this. And I was working at the time. I saved up some money, and my parents helped me with it. And June 6th, 1985, I head out to North Carolina from Chicago, first time alone on a plane, and get to Asheville, North Carolina, and we were driven up into the mountains, and it was day one. I knew I was in the right place. I was a real quiet, shy kid, but something inside of me started growing, and it was like this light. It was like, wow, I could be myself here, and I can utilize skills, develop skills that I never thought possible, and it was like leading a group, it's like I was really good at map and compass, and my instructors knew that, and I knew where we were most of the time. Looking, just looking at the map, I could just, the hill over there, we're right here. And so, Neal, why don't you share that with the group? You've got, where, and it's like, and it was all of a sudden my voice was starting to come up, and I was like, and so that inspired me, that empowered me. But my mind started, day one, I knew this was going to be a lifetime journey all of a sudden, and 23 days later, it was like this, wow, I want to be an Outward Bound instructor. Yeah. After 23 days, I was like, I want to go do that. I went to college in Oregon and graduated, and still, I went through this outdoor ed program, learned all these outdoor leadership skills, rock climbing, mountaineering, guiding people in the mountains, and I applied to Outward Bound, wasn't accepted, applied again right after I graduated, and was hired 10 days later, and before you knew it, like a week later, I was on a 30-day course leading at-risk youth in the mountains of Oregon. And I was like, that was it, and that really started my adventure mindset. I mean, literally my senior year of high school, I wrote a paper called The Psychology of Mountaineering. I want to know how we do this stuff, and where that comes from. And I remember digging into like Abraham Maslow, Carl Rogers, popular at the time, and still popular, they're still very important, and just thinking about just belief in ourselves. And, and I was thinking about this the other day, is a lot of this just comes to, I believe, belief in myself and my abilities, and I'm capable of a capable human being. There's that transference from an adventure like Outward Bound to life. There's a transference from a 24-hour event or a backyard ultra to life. And if I could work in that space of like, okay, what does this mean? But also, we could push ourselves in these ultras, but why is there this challenge in life too? And this is where my therapy hat comes in. And how do we blend the two? Can we blend the two? And yeah, thank you for looking into that. I mean, I've never been asked directly. Sometimes it gets out in conversation, but that Outward Bound course was life-changing, and it hasn't left me. I'm looking up right in front of me. I've got a what's known as a Blue Peter. It's a flag that they put on ships when they are leaving the harbor, and that's what it's all about. Is we're safe in the harbor, but that's not what ships are built for. That's not what we're built for. We're built to explore. We're built for curiosity, and we want safety, but we're also striving for something else.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. No, I love that. And I love thinking about that ship also, and just how it relates to how we approach life in different situations, and how we can also approach our training and race day too, of wanting to seek comfort and that safety and the known, even though it might not be the thing for us or that's good for us, because we have to push past that fear to get to the thing that we want. Absolutely.
Our brains are designed for safety. They want to be it wants to be in the harbor where it's calm and quiet. It's safe and it's not raining and stuff. When it gets unsafe, we want to pull back and just and go to that safe place. Yeah, and that's normal, and that's what I tell everyone. It's like, look, this is normal. When we're tired, exhausted, we want, and we're hungry. We want to go back to our cave because it's safe there.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is, outside of those bounds, and we can do that, and that's how we explore, right? We got to check what's outside the cave. We got to take these risks and get uncomfortable, emotionally and physically. And, taking that experience and how do we use that in life, and how do we use that life experience in ultras too?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, there's so much to unpack there, and I'm trying to figure out what direction I want to go. So I think let's start with, are you familiar with the last man standing format, backyard ultras?
I'm generally familiar with it.
Okay.
You got an hour. Yeah, 4 how many miles?
4.167 miles.
4.167 miles.
Yep.
You got an hour to do it.
Yep.
It just, that just excites me there.
Yes. Yeah.
Just kind of thinking the challenge that it provides. So,
right. Yeah. And, I see different reasons that athletes sign up for these races, right? Like it's newer. I shouldn't say it's newer, but it's becoming more prominent, and more people are learning about the format, and it's a newer challenge that they're not used to, or maybe they've been in the ultra world for a while and they're like, I want to just try something different. The barrier to entry is very low, and it's very approachable. So those who are wanting to run their first trail race or ultra, like that's one way that they're entering the ultra world. People who are looking to push themselves of how far can I actually go? Like I've ran a 100-miler, I've ran Cocodona, I've ran these longer races, but I haven't actually figured out what my limit is. So people sign up for Backyard Ultra. There's the aspect of it's a controlled environment. Like I can test out different gear, I can figure out pacing and nutrition for other ultras. So there's all these different ways that they can approach the Backyard Ultra, and there's lots of benefits, but there's also big questions out there, right? There's how far can I go, and how much do I need to pack, because I have no idea how long this race is going to go for, or how far I can even run with being held to that standard of having to start every hour. When we think about this format, like what's different from the mental performance side about a race where there's no defined finish line?
You're jumping into the unknown. To me, it's very clear that, you have to have a drive of curiosity and exploration of, just your limits. A lot of people, I can imagine coming from somebody, who, I could run 100 miles. When I add a challenge to that, and I can reflect back, I love this thing in Leadville, and I talk about it all the time, this lead challenge where you do, you run the marathon, and then you do 2 weeks later, you do the 50-mile run or bike, and then you do the 100-mile mountain bike, followed by a 10K run, followed by the 100-mile run the next week. That to me is my ultimate challenge, because I'm limited, by experience on the mountain bike. And so this is, wow, this is intense. And I think what drives these backyard ultras, or any event where there's this unknown, it's like, what can I do? We're curious beings. Can I do that? Can I see what's on the other side there?
Yeah.
And then then we go, oh, what's next? Can I do more? And that's what. And every time we start out on a path like that, like I had no idea, talking about that outward bound, I had no idea it was at the end of that path. I had no idea what 3 days solo meant, And then I kept exploring. What is at the end of this? What is over here? What am I capable of? And I think that's what these backyard ultras open up for people who want to explore a different side of that, where there's, I don't know what the end is, and maybe, and it's going to be different, and it might be different every time too. Our bodies are constantly, here's the thing with the physiology is like our bodies are changing, and we might get sick. We might have a little niggle that doesn't show up until race day. All of these things are going on. But what can I do today? What can I do right here, right now? And that's a power of the sport in general.
Yeah.
Hope,
No, I love that.
yeah, hope that answered that.
Yes, yeah. So when runners are thinking about being curious and trying to figure out, like, within the race of what do I have left? Like, how do I keep going? Do I have more left in me? Like, a lot of times athletes decide, like, that's done. But as soon as they quit, they don't go out for another yard. They're like, I had one left in me. So is there, like, like, I always feel like in that experience, in that action of actually pushing through that feeling, that as soon as you finish that one more loop, it's like a energy boost. It's like, I did that. I can keep going. But like, is there anything else besides action that helps you get to that point of realizing that there's more inside of you?
Yeah, I think there are. I mean, I love the idea of action, right? The action, I lean on action a lot. It's like, okay, we've kind of we have this choice point, right? Because we're going to have these things called sensations, emotions, these feelings, these thoughts, all these things that are coming up. And then we have this choice of going towards our goals, values, mission, and creating this action of moving forward. Then on the other side is we have this avoidance. Again, we're going to safety a lot of the time. Sometimes it's scrolling on the phone. Sometimes it's quitting. Sometimes it's quitting. And neither is bad. But what I like to try to get people to think about is, what is the direction you want to move in? Where do you want to go in your life? Is this a value of yours? Okay, how is that going to show up? We have to be aware of how our minds are going to show up when we're fatigued, when we're tired. It is not, everything's, we have, first of all, there's the idea of this cognitive fatigue where our decision making just goes out the door when we're fatigued. And I just posted something up on Instagram about ADHD and neurodiversity and how we're going in with a little bit more challenged. We could really focus really well. However, there's going to be, the decision fatigue is going to be a lot more challenging. So that fatigue is playing into it. Once we start developing the knowledge that, my brain is going to be playing some games with me here. My mind is telling me to stop when I know, as soon as I stop, I'm going to have a little bit more. So I'm going to keep going. And I'll use this example. This example is burning in my head right now, so I'll share this with you. So I was doing javelina, which is this javelina 100, it's 5 loops in the desert, these 20-mile loops. Real easy to stop because you're at this aid station where there's this big party. And 3 loops in, first loop, my calf started. Something was going on. I think it was because I was sitting in the car for 14 hours, which is never a good idea. Got there, and then there was some nerve compression, and my calves were like super tight, and actually one of my feet got numb. It was like something was wrong, So I'm running, and my calves get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And third loop, it's like, this really hurts, I'm just kind of walking it, hobbling it, and I was like, finally, fourth loop, I'm like, 1 loop to go. I'm just going to sit down. First time I'm going to sit down. I couldn't get up. I couldn't flex my legs, and it's like, it was like, there it is. We're done. I think I need like a paramedic to carry me to the car. I mean, it was that bad. Another coach comes over, physical therapist kind of massages my legs a little bit. Take a Tylenol, and so helps me up. Gets underneath my arms, he pulls me up, and I'm standing up. And I'm like, okay, now, I'm trying to walk, and I'm falling over. It's like this, and then I'm like, it loosens up a little bit, and it loosens up, and I'm like, boom, action, water bottle, gel. All right, let's go. Says, Neal, I'll pace you. I was like, he wasn't able to pace me. He was pacing somebody else. So I just took off into the night. But it was this choice point that came up. I sat there for an hour and a half. I had time that I had it on available in the time in the bank. So I was like, I could do this, 20 miles. It is getting to that choice point and how I describe it is unhooking or diffusing from these unhelpful thoughts, feelings, and sensations. Sometimes you have to open up to them. So, yeah, I was hurting. Okay. It sucked. Excuse me. It really sucked. But still standing up, and going, all right, this is the movement. This is the action I need to do. And, it was like, I remember around 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, I passed this bench, and there was a woman sitting on the bench. She turned to me and said, this is really nice. It's like the devil sitting there. Like, I'm going to keep going because I know if I sit down, I'm not going to get up from that.
Yeah.
But but it's that, again, getting to that choice point, and knowing you have the choice.
Yeah.
And there's so much I could say about what if you make the other choice, and that's okay. That's the thing is what I want to get into people's heads is that that's okay in that moment.
Yeah.
To make that choice. And if you're able to hold yourself compassionately and go, yeah, okay, well, next time I can make this other choice. That moment at Javelina helped me tremendously. It's like, this is, sometimes I'm going to slow significantly and I'm not going to be able to go as fast as I want to go, and I may not make the cutoffs. But as long as I can make the cutoffs, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep going. And because I can make that choice, but you have to experience that, and you have to hold yourself kindly, and being able to get back up. When we start beating ourselves up, we could hold on to that for a long period of time. It just doesn't help us. It doesn't help, you know. So, all right, now what did I learn? Great, write it down. 48 hours, let it go. Boom. Next time, we're going to do something differently. So we're unhooking from that unhelpful stuff. We're sometimes opening up to that discomfort. We're opening up to the discomfort, the emotional discomfort, as well as those thoughts and feelings that push us around. I thank my mind for trying to get me to stop. You're trying to help me. You're trying to save me here. You're keeping me safe. But I'm just going to keep going here.
Yeah. Yeah. Does talking out loud versus thinking it help you more in situations like that?
I talk out loud all the time. It depends on the individual. I think, sometimes talking out loud is fine. It's like, you got this, I'm strong, telling yourself, using that self-talk. So when I think of self-talk, I think of that as a strategy for towards move. This is going to be something that helps me, and sometimes we don't believe it, and sometimes we're fighting it, and that's because we're hooked on all that other garbage that's going on and pushing us around. But once we were able to unhook and refocus on that, okay, I am strong. I was out running the other day, and it was like, I'm strong. It's like, digging into this, and it was like, it felt good, But sometimes saying it out loud, yeah, maybe. Sometimes being quiet in my head, it's like, I'm usually have music. Sometimes sometimes I'll have music on, and I just like, I'm saying it to myself. It probably doesn't matter. It depends on the individual.
Yeah. I noticed that, like, I tend to just internalize everything, and everything I think is in my head. But in those moments when I talk out loud, it's almost like a friend is talking to me, and it makes it more real, at least to myself.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And it's, what was I going to say about that? It's like, we're always having thoughts. We're always having feelings. We are, and we can't stop it. And trying to stop it is like trying to push a beach ball down into the pool. It's going to pop back up, It's going to pop back up. I tell people all the time, it's like, I want you to think about your favorite ice cream. If you like ice cream, you might not like ice cream, but really get that thought of that ice cream in your head and thinking about that. Do you like ice cream?
I love ice cream.
What kind of ice cream do you like?
Oh, anything with chocolate, caramel, peanut butter.
Well, that sounds really good. So you get a good picture of that, for now. I'm thinking of my ice cream, getting it on a waffle cone, and I can smell it's a hot summer day. This is really good. Now, immediately stop thinking about it. Have you just like let go of it?
No. I want ice cream now.
No, we're thinking about ice cream now. We're talking about ice cream now. How did this conversation get to ice cream? That's the thing, is that thought is, those thoughts are going to be there. Sometimes they fade. Sometimes they get louder. Sometimes they get quieter. Sometimes they just, go off into the distance. And that's okay. That's how our minds work. But we can make a choice. We don't have. You and I aren't going to get ice cream right now.
Well, right? I might.
You might. You might. Yeah, but I don't have any ice cream. I'm not going to go get some. But I'm making that choice of like, no, I don't have to get ice cream right now. I can make this choice to go have this productive conversation with you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that analogy.
I hope that answered the question. I kind of go
yes.
over here.
Yes.
Over here.
No, I love it. It's all very helpful. And I want to talk a little bit more about kindness and the compassion side, because we hear a lot about failure and DNFing in the ultra world. And I kind of want to set the stage for this question. So when I first got into the ultra world, the first thing I heard about was the dreaded DNF. And I come from a background of performance-based perfectionism on the road. I had intentionally won 8 half marathons in a row, and I was really just approaching each race as, how can I do better this time, and can I improve? And it became this expectation of I was going to win, and that pressure became way too much for me. I did a lot of therapy. I transitioned to the trails, and both of those helped me with getting away from the numbers and from that comparison of what I had done before. So as soon as I really entered the ultra world and I heard people talking about, you do not want to DNF, and like shaming it, I immediately went towards, I want to get my first DNF. Like, I want to get that out of the way, because I don't want that to hold me back or to put pressure on me from trying not to DNF and to make the wrong decision. So when it comes to backyard ultras, I see a lot of people not wanting to sign up for one, even though it intrigues them, because they don't want that DNF. Because technically everyone is a DNF except for that one last runner if they finish that last loop within time. So what are your thoughts on the thoughts around DNFing in ultras and how it's become such a big thing?
Yeah, that's, and I've actually, I've wrote a blog on this, and I've done a couple podcasts on DNFing, and have talked about that. And, and it says something, again, about this culture, which some of it comes from this toughness culture, which I'm going to call it bullshit. And then there's this other culture that can step back and understand the humanness of this, and that we can still push ourselves, and we can still do hard things. But I love this concept of the backyard ultra, because there's going to be failure no matter what. There's going to be failure no matter what. You are going to DNF no matter what. And when you get the judge out, and that judge starts whipping you and starts yelling at you, you're doing this wrong, you didn't finish, is that going to be helpful in your life? How helpful is that?
It's not.
It's not. When you bring this sense of, just kindness to yourself, and common humanity, because you remember, in the backyard ultra, only one person's winning. This last man standing thing is like, okay, only one person's going to finish this. And I love the idea, like the Barclays, thinking about that.
Yeah.
It's designed for failure. Yeah. That's awesome. If you go into that race, you can't go in, expecting, I mean, it's great if you can go in, I'm expecting to win, and you jam that out. Great. That's awesome. But, there's going to be that, 100% chance that you're going to fail. Almost. And that's okay. Going to baseball, basketball, you're going to miss that free throw. Baseball, the pitcher is someone's going to hit a home run off of them. You're going to get striked out. at some point.
Yep.
There is failure built into sport, which is just amazing. There's failure built into ultras. It does not say anything about you. Doesn't, and this is where this idea of self-compassion is so powerful, is if you were able to bring that kindness to yourself, also look at the common humanity, and also this mindfulness component of it, of I'm right here right now. And I think I heard you on a podcast talking about being present. Mm-hmm. Yeah, part of being present is also being aware of our thoughts, and also being aware that we are not our thoughts and feelings. We are not the DNF. Taking our identity out of that. Mm-hmm. We are so much more than a DNF. I have DNF, that lead challenge thing that I talked about 7 times. I've not been able to complete all those races in this, haven't been able to put that puzzle together. Mm-hmm. And there might be someone out there, well, whatever, it's like, yeah, you don't know me, my body. I have not been mountain biking a ton, and I don't put a lot of energy into it. And so that is, that I recognize as an issue. Mm-hmm. Ultra running I love, and so, yeah, I finished the 100-mile run. I haven't finished the 100-mile bike underneath the cutoffs. But that is being able to hold myself kindly allows me to come back to it again and again. And anytime you don't finish, yeah, it sucks. At the same time, you can move beyond that. Hold it lightly. Look at what you could do differently. And then go about it the next time, mm-hmm. and try it again. Get up and try it again. Get up and try it again. And just like in the backyard ultra, and moving that into life, is that you're going to have failure in life. You're not going to hit everything perfectly, but if you can keep getting up and keep trying, I'm sounding like Rocky here in a movie, I think. Yeah, keep moving forward, but that's it. You're going to get knocked down. Yeah. But you can't, let that hit your identity. And this is where, holding it kindly, opening up to the emotions, opening up to the sadness and diffusing from it, unhooking from it, and then this is how I want to show up. This is who the person is who I want to be in life. Mm-hmm. Yeah, our goals are goals can come and go. We may or may not reach our goals, but we're always going to have these values that are out there of how we want to show up, how I want to treat myself, others, and the world around me. How do I want to do that? And so, that's where, again, I may not reach that goal today, and I may not reach it tomorrow, but I can keep going back to that. Maybe I need to change it. I'm going back to lead challenge in 2 years. I'm going to get more time on the mountain bike, but I need to finish some running things first.
When runners are thinking about their values, some people are really strong and firm, and these are my values. Others haven't really thought about it much. So what do you encourage them to think about when thinking about their values to help them in life, but also in running and in their races, so that they can keep going based on their values?
Yeah, sometimes it takes exploration, and I like to think about, how I want to treat myself, others, in the world around me. And you could do this kind of in some reflective exercises. I always use, I don't know Billy Yang, but I use him because he's he's always doing these documentaries of ultra runners, he's at these races. I want you to imagine Billy Yang is following you around in this race, and he's talking to your crew, and he's talking to your pacers, or, and, people that know you, and he's asking you, he's like, how's Jackie showing up today? What is she doing? She's really focused. She's really curious and exploring those limits. Now we're starting to kind of describe some of these values. So I would encourage you to write something like that. Write that story out. What are they saying about me in a documentary? I'm in YouTube, and here's this ultra running video, documentary about me. And what are they saying about me and how I'm showing up today? When you're long gone from this planet, how would you like people to know who you were, what you stood for? What you stood for, how you treated yourself and others and the world around you. So stepping back, and it takes, I said, get on ChatGPT, get a list of values, and sometimes show, circling what those are.
Yeah.
And not just the word of curiosity, but being curious. Think of it as an adverb and an action, right? I am being curious today. I'm going, I am being adventurous. I'm exploring today, whatever it is. I'm being mindful today. What am I being right now? How am I going to do that? Because that links that value to the action that you're taking. We could think about values, and this is the value. I am honorable. What are you doing that's honorable? What is it? What if you're curious, what are you doing that's curious right now? So I'm sitting at Javelina, and it's like, well, I'm going to be curious right now. Can I stand up? Yeah, it really hurts. Really hurts. Okay, can I run? I can run a little. At the end, there was this, I'm finishing it. I'm like, I'm running, and I was like this little shuffle. It's like what I could do, but I'm being curious. It was like, wow, that was really cool. As I explored this limit here that, for a while I didn't think I had. That's what it's all about. Is so. That's how I would go about trying to find those values, pick those letters, find out what that action is, write a sentence or two about it.
Yeah.
And here's the thing with values that I think is really important to remember is being flexible with them. Is being flexible and understanding that sometimes those values are going to change. And your why is going to change. Sometimes it changes during a race. Sometimes it, and that is important to know, and not, I wasn't doing this today. Well, maybe not today, but tomorrow you could focus on that, or in a minute you could focus on that, or maybe that isn't what yours is right now. But being flexible, when we start holding ourselves kindly to that too, that gives us even more power. Because if I'm saying I am this all the time, that's we're human.
Yeah. No, I completely understand that side, and I see that from the coaching side a lot, right? Where athletes are going to stick to their plan no matter what. But as coaches, we want them to be flexible with it. And let's listen to our bodies and what do we need right now in this moment. And that flexibility is so important to growing as an athlete too.
It's huge. It's huge. I send a newsletter to my athletes, once a week. And one of the things I commented on is I really try to give them instruction. So in my coaching hat, not my therapy or mental performance hat, on my coaching hat, is I want people to think about their runs, and think about, okay, just because it says 5 by 5 minute threshold, tempo. Hey, if you're, you could explore and check it out, but at the same time, I want you to be flexible with it. I don't want you to go do by 10 by 5, but I also want you to be able to kind of, listen to your body, and listen to your body and back off, and it doesn't say anything about you. What, other than it's like, hey, maybe you're listening to your body and you're being really, intelligent about this and flexible. I want people to be able to have that flexibility, because if you're not, and you're just going, I need to run 60 miles a week all the time, you're gonna get into trouble. If you can be flexible about that and adjust it, and it's like, I'm going to ride my bike today because I know my legs are just trashed and I'm going to go into that next run a lot stronger. You're going to absorb that training a lot better.
Yeah.
And you're being kind to yourself.
So I've seen you talk a lot about mental health and performance. How does mental health impact performance positively or negatively?
Thank you for asking that question. And the way I look at it is that it can impact it tremendously, in the sense that if you are not addressing the stuff that's going on in your life, or not cognizant of it, it's going to impact your performance. If you try to compartmentalize it, that is going to make that performance a lot more challenging. And think about it as a mental load, as a cognitive load, is that you are carrying this backpack and you're putting all this stuff in your backpack. So if you look at, like a personal loss, I went and did Leadville and my dog died that night before. What do you think, and I'm, trying to run this race and my mind is there, but part of my body, and so this is kind of thinking about the somatic side of it, my body wasn't there, and, it's my dog, it's like, I went and tried an ultra and my mom was, I got a text that morning, and I'm in Arizona and my mom just got into the hospital. Do you think my mind was there? It's on my body was there. Yeah, I was trying to focus, and I was, but kind of this magical thing happened. I started coughing, and I was like, maybe it's COVID or something like that, and mind, body weren't there. Now, sure, I think there's some people that could be really good at compartmentalizing some things, but I think you're still going to be impacted by it. And this is where I'll argue, we have mental performance coaches and, and therapists that are mental performance coaches and, clinical sports psychologists, and then non-clinical sports psychologists, which is really kind of important to understand those differences too, is I do think in the mental health perspective, as I like entwining them both, and if someone's coming to me, hey, let's work on this, that's going to help you perform, because we could talk about performance in the mental health realm, because that's part of who you are. Yeah. And so, yes, the long answer is absolutely. I'm actually training right now in this modality of therapy called eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR.
I've done that. Yep.
It's very powerful, very powerful, but what I'm understanding is that, we have these charged memories, and sometimes those memories, we react to those memories, that it's just these, and what EMDR does in therapy is we kind of work on those, we target those memories, those charges, and lessen the charges. Now, if you can do that, then you're going to probably run a lot better. Well, unload that backpack, unload that backpack, or recognize that backpack is there, and then bring that compassion in too. It's like, I'm carrying this big backpack right now. This is going to be challenging. I look at Michael Jordan and I can't remember which Super Bowl World Championship it was, but back in the 90s, he came in with 104-degree fever. And, it was really sick, and he was able to compartmentalize it and just get out there and do that. We're not all Michael Jordan, and even then, that when he lost his father, he actually took a year or two off. He went and did something completely that he enjoyed, but it wasn't his primary love too. And people may argue something different. That's not why he did that. Well, his dad died. His dad was murdered, and he took that time off, and then he came back to the sport. I don't know if he had therapy or not, but but it's still opening up, taking care of your mental health, being willing to process that. And so many of us in the ultra running space, may not want to address that. So, we want to tough it out, and that's not the answer.
Yeah. Well, and I see a lot of that compartmentalizing in the beginning, right? Like you feel like you can, and you might feel like you have superpowers that you can kind of push that aside, and you're doing really well in running. But from what I've seen, it always comes back. Like you can only push it aside so much. And then you realize the real work that you need to do, or the underlying things that you have to address to get through where you actually want to be.
Totally. Yeah. It's powerful stuff.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Well, thank you so much for sharing on that. I just think it's a really important topic and something that, I talk to, and I'm sure you talk to a ton of runners too, and they always have their bigger goal that they want to achieve in running, right? But there's always these underlying things that we as coaches or just as this outside viewpoint can see, whether it's related to the mind or it's related to nutrition or whatever it may be. And it's like, maybe coaching right now is not the thing that you need and it's something else. And if we address that underlying thing first, then you're going to benefit. And then I want to help you even more, but we want to address those underlying things first before you go into coaching, because coaching can be very frustrating. Like I've seen it time after time of athletes not seeing the results that they want because they're not addressing the thing that actually isn't working right now. It's not the plan, it's these other things.
Oh, absolutely. 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 Love it. And I do think you can do the coaching at the same time, as long as you're getting that, that other help too.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think but you have to be aware of that and address it, then, and not go, well, yeah. And a lot of times I'll hear, yeah, but I don't want to do that. This emotional stuff is really hard, and it's scary, and that's, and that's sometimes we get into ultra running or running to avoid some of that because we get all these great hormones, that are just, all these great neurotransmitters that are really good. And I feel good when I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. And there is, and there's definitely some research that says, hey, running or exercise is almost as good as some medications that's out there, and you see that a lot on social media and people are pushing it.
Yep.
But I'm also going to say do the hard work too. Yeah. Because this is that stuff that you don't want to talk about. Mm-hmm. That's the stuff. When you start digging into it, you can unload that stuff, and then be able to perform so much better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I have a couple questions about the thought process that we go through it in ultras, but I would say it's even more focused during the backyard because of the time constraint and also the option to be done after your loop, right? So how do you, and we've talked about this a lot already, but how do you stay present and get your mind off of, oh my gosh, my knees are extremely sore, or I have this huge blister, or my stomach is just absolutely wrecked, and that's all runners can focus on in this moment. Like, how do you get your mind off of that and focus on, I just need to focus on this yard right now?
Yeah, train it. Train it. First of all, the first thing that comes to mind is, addressing that cognitive fatigue, knowing that that's going to be there. And so before your race, in your training, and this is where touching on that mental health stuff too, because I do think that's part of it, but simplifying everything. Make it as simple as possible. Set your timer to eat. Okay, as soon as you get in, you grab this, boom, boom, boom. Oh, you got the blister. Do. We take care of the blister. This is very mechanical, but you simplify everything, and definitely leading up to the race, you simplify everything in practice. Mental skills are great as long as you practice them. They're not going to, I read this book, and, as you're doing this race, that's not going to help you. You have to practice it. You have to address all this stuff beforehand. It's like, I get a lot of people coming from mental performance like the week before a race. I'm like, that doesn't work. We got to do, this like, I don't have a magic wand, and we got to work, months in advance, and then we kind of prepare for that race. But again, making it as simple as possible. So here's the triangle that that I like to use, and this is coming from acceptance commitment therapy. One is being present. Being present. At the top of that triangle. On the side is opening up opening up to the thoughts, feelings, sensations, that's going to be there. Just knowing that it's going to be there. You're going to hurt. Your foot is going to hurt. You're going to get hungry. You're going to get nauseous. Third part in the triangle is doing what matters. And that's leaning into those actions. And you could just sit there floating around this triangle, all day. I can make it more complicated, but I'm not going to. ACT uses a hexaflex. I like bringing it down to a triflex. So, and doing what matters, and which is linked to your values and committed action. I think about acceptance commitment therapy is committed action. And so going back to that, okay, I know I'm going to get in this headspace. So we got to catch it. We got to learn to catch it. That is a skill. It is not just something I'm magically all of a sudden going to start doing. I got to be able to, that self-awareness. I'm going in this, I can't do this. I can't do this. As soon as I got into that awareness, as soon as that awareness happened that, I can stand up and I can move. Oh yeah. Okay. Let's go. That awareness is key. So I encourage people that, in your training peaks or wherever you're logging, your training, jot down what do you notice your mind was telling you?
Yeah.
Don't judge it, because as soon as you start judging it, you're going to go into that loop here. Notice when you're judging it. What is my mind telling me? And was it helpful? Was it not helpful? And, was it neutral? That's great. Was I just singing a song? Great. Awesome. You're starting to notice that. You're getting into that habit of catching it, then you're going to address it. And I tell people, drop anchor, just, okay, you're going to get grounded here. You're going to take that deep breath. In a backyard altar, you probably have a second or two to take a slow, deep breath, anchor yourself to where you are. I'm talking to my crew here, or if you don't have crew, what am I doing? Maybe I'm taking a look at my note card where I have a mantra written down, it's like, okay, this is my focus. Take that 6 seconds in, deep breath, 6 seconds out. Oh, that's 12 seconds. You're not going to lose much time getting out of there, or just noticing the sound around you, noticing the smells, what do I hear? What do I see? What do I By the way, it's snowing right now. I'm in Colorado, and this is the first. I think this is the first time all winter. It's not even winter anymore that we've got an accumulation of snow. So I got distracted by shiny objects.
Crazy.
It's absolutely nuts. So, for people who don't know, it's April 17th. So it has been it was 70 degrees in February here. So you come back to that moment. So I just got grounded, come back here.
Yeah.
Right here, right now.
Perfect example.
And then the action you're going to take. Engage in the world. Engage in what you plan on doing. You're going to get hooked. You're going to get pushed around. That is normal. That's how our minds work. Normalize it, name it, and then come back into your body, come back to where you are right here, right now. And then take action. What do you want to engage in? How do you want to act on that? How do you want to respond here?
Yeah.
Have those choices prepared in advance and practice them over and over and over and over and over and over again. Every long training run, everything you do, that's going to help you for that moment. And then unload all that stuff leading up to the race. Make things as simple as possible. And that way it's, that way it may go off smoothly.
Yeah.
And the likelihood it is, because you've practiced it over and over again, and get ready for that punch in the mouth, because those calves are going to cramp up, the blister's going to show up that you didn't expect, your stomach's going to turn, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Now, what's the next step?
Yeah. I love that you emphasize training it and practicing it well in advance of race day, because conversations I've had with athletes, we're talking about the mental side of what's going to happen on race day and what they're practicing in their training currently. And sometimes I get the answer of, oh no, I feel good. I'm mentally good right now. And I'm like, but that's great, right? But at the same time, we want to practice those things when things are going well so that we can default to them when they're not going well. And so we can actually remember what we should be doing to kind of work through those situations.
Exactly. And I'll give people, on the coaching side, I'll give people long training runs, that are long, not all the time, but I want them to experience that nausea. I want them to experience that blister. I want to experience different seasons, run through the snow, run through the heat. What are you going to do? How are you going to respond to that? Because just doing a 2-hour run isn't going to help. You've got to be able to experience it. Oh, guess what? We're going back to Outward Bound in my experiential education. This is we're learning by experience. We're learning by failure. We're learning by failure. This is, and in full circle, it's like that's what it was all about. It's experiential education. That's what Outward Bound was about, and it's learning by that failure. Because that's the only way you're going to learn. You never see a toddler just all of a sudden stand up and go for a run. Toddler's going to fall down and they get back up. That's how we learn. And if you can't open up to that DNF, you're never going to learn. Because then it's going to hit you later on. And I've seen this happen to people where it's like they get their first 100 done and it's like, oh yeah, I rocked it. Yeah, and they get to the next 100 and they get punched in the mouth and it's the end of the world. And you gotta be okay with that failure and get back up.
So when talking about like a growth mindset and a fixed mindset and being curious versus maybe fearing something, when you're approaching the backyard and you've done it before, a lot of the veteran backyard runners say like, the race doesn't even start until 18 hours or 24 hours into the race, right? Like they just have to get 24 hours through the race and they have to go through this process. So I guess from some of their perspectives, they're approaching it as curiosity, as this is just what we need to do. And then I can really get into it and put myself to the test. But other runners, knowing what they have gone through to get to what they have actually ran, they might experience some of that fear of knowing what's to come. Does that come from the mental health side? Does that come from just needing to approach curiosity in a different way? Like how do runners get out of that kind of fixed mindset to a growth mindset of curiosity?
I think it is, first of all, developing and learning it. And I'm not going to say it's a mental health thing or anything like that, but I can say that I think it's changing that, looking at that mindset and asking, how is that helping me right now? Is this working for me? Okay, this isn't working for me.
Yes.
When I go into this race, dreading it and not. And so that's not working. So what do I do? What do I need to do to change that? And it might be, there's this idea of this growth mindset, and which is really helpful. And the research is like, it is not just all about growth mindset. Some people, it does help to be in that fixed mindset once in a while, but you should be able to float and be able to go, this is really helpful for me to move into this growth mindset.
Yeah.
And that, what happens is when we're really rigid in our thinking and unflexible, that's where we run into problems. And when we start developing that flexibility and going, this is going to lean into this curiosity and see what this is, and if I, that's what's going to help me grow, and get to that growth mindset. And it's going into that, opening up to that failure, opening up to that experiential mindset too.
Yeah.
Is that helpful? I think I answered that.
Yes, it was helpful.
It's looking at how is this working for me right now? Is this helpful? The way I'm behaving, the way I'm acting, the way because right now it's not helpful.
Yeah, I love that question. Yeah. So boredom is another big one with the backyard, with a last man standing, with a short looped course. And it's still something that I'm personally working through. So I hear half the runners that I talk to say they don't get bored at all during a backyard ultra. Some of them have ran 70 yards. Like, and that to me is mind blowing, right? I'm like, how do you not get bored at all? But that's like, again, something that I'm working on. And half the runners that I talk to say, I get so bored out there. Like, how am I going to do this? Like, I have these big goals, but how do I get out of that space of boredom? And is it something that you just kind of work through? Like, when you hit those lows in an ultra, you work through them to get to the other side. It, like, what's going on there with the mind, and how do we approach that?
So people may argue with me, but I'm gonna say, and this is just, this kind of came to my mind here, is boredom is a choice. It is a choice. I'm never bored. I always have something to do. It's like, I'm bored. It's like, oh wow, I can clean my desk right now. And so. And I'm trying to think about all the ultras that I've run or the marathons where I'm never bored. I'm sore, I'm uncomfortable. Sometimes boredom is a choice that we move to when what we're experiencing is uncomfortable. And so we have to go back to that idea. That choice point is like, okay, this is a sensation. It's a sensation I'm experiencing right now, or even just looking at it as a sensation.
Yeah. And
by telling myself over and over I'm bored, that's not going to help me. That's not workable. And so I'm noticing it. I'm noticing that feeling. Well, what am I going to do to choose differently? Well, I chose to be in this race. Okay. Well, what about this race that I need to be doing right now? Okay, moving forward. Okay, I'm just going to, and maybe I could be bored and still do this. So that's, you could have that feeling, that sensation, and not respond to it or not react to it. I like the difference between react and respond. Reacting, you're moving away. Responding is you're like, okay, I'm going to respond to it in a way that's helpful and congruent with how I want to show up today. You can feel that boredom and just go, all right, yeah, that's boredom. This is monotonous. I'm just going around in circles here. I've seen, it's like javelina. It's like, I got to know those cactus. I knew which cactus it was. Oh yeah, this is that rock I see every time at mile, whatever.
Yes.
It's just noticing that and just being open to that, and then going, all right, I'm going to move over here. This is just, it's just a feeling right now. And, and it could be passing too, and it's the same thing, the idea of confidence. I have to feel confident to do this. You don't have to feel anything. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
You could, you just have to start taking, action. It, may not be pretty, but, just by taking action is moving you towards that and taking those risks and taking those challenges. And so you could feel this experience of like, I don't feel this right now, and I'm bored, and I could still take action. Long-winded answer for you.
No, I love it. Can you talk about sensations, feelings, and emotions? Are they different? Are they the same? Can you just explain a little bit about them?
Yeah, they're all connected, right? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Who knows? But we could have, a sensation, a feeling in our chest, when I'm anxious, or I can feel it in my shoulders, and just notice that, and there's an attachment, and that's our mind, maybe having this connection, our memory having a connection to that feeling of like, of anxiety, of protection, or that sensation in my foot, what is that sensation, is that piriformis, piriformis, that's my butt. Plantar fasciitis. Sorry. Wrong part of my body. Hey, I'm a therapist, not not a doctor here. So, so you have these, these sensations, and they might be linked to thoughts, and we might have these judgments on what those sensations are. we could also experience those sensations non-judgmentally and just noticing those sensations and being open to them and not having those push us around. Sometimes things with chronic pain, for example, can make, they're still there, but is it something that is dangerous or life-threatening may not be the reality of it. Yeah. And so kind of going back to that, noticing that sensation and what our interpretations are, what our thoughts are, what our mind is telling us, which down the road can trigger these emotions. And emotions are so, these normal, thousands of them, of what kinds of emotions I can have. I could be angry, I could be sad, I could be rageful, I could be joyful, I could be ecstatic, And they may be linked to thoughts. They may come first. They may come last, And we don't have to react to all of them. These are just part of the human experience. And when we're open to that and start getting mindful of it, then we start having this awareness, and we could have this separation of like, oh, yeah, I'm having this thought right now. It's not necessarily how I want to be. And then we have this a choice on committing and responding to things, to committed action. But to tease them apart, it's like, yeah, we have these sensations, we have these thoughts, we have these emotions and feelings, and they're all normal, I don't know if that answers that.
No, it does.
Like, it's like, but I think a lot of times, definitely in this sport, we try to ignore a lot of those feelings and sensations, and I shouldn't have that. We have these rules growing up that I shouldn't experience. We have coaches maybe that weren't so helpful, that have told us, ignore your feelings. I don't care about your feelings. And that's not helpful.
Right.
It's like, yeah, these are normal. And that's nice, and we could still make a choice on how I want to behave, and I could open up to it and just experience this emotion of sadness, and joy, and I can, and I could do this too, and I could experience them all at the same time. I could be joyful and sad too.
No, I think that's helpful. And I think it's helpful for our listeners to just recognize that these things are normal and that we can experience them. But we also don't have to react to them, and not pushing them. Like, I feel like a lot of runners will push them away until they can't, right? And then it's like the world is ending. Like, they DNF, they can't handle it. They quit their training run or whatever because of what they're experiencing. But if we learn to sit with them and be mindful of them and just recognize them, that can take us really far.
That could take us miles. Literally. It could take us miles, It's getting that training and, and then reaching out to a therapist, or sometimes a mental performance coach. But, I lean on the therapy side because that's the hat I like to wear. And especially when we're starting to deal with some of those deeper emotions. A lot of people want to move right to that mental performance side, and I think it's really good. And the way I kind of describe it is, it's really proactive versus being reactive. And let's go back a little bit and step back and go, okay, how am I going to take care of myself first and deal, and then, we could do some of that proactive stuff too.
Yeah.
But yeah, starting to dealing with some of that stuff that's coming up, and then, go jam, go run them. go run in circles for hours. You got this. Yeah. It's like, it gives you more power. Because then that self-awareness, starting with that self-awareness, is just going to explode.
So this next question might be fairly similar, but I'm just curious if you have anything different to say on the topic. Did you follow Big's Backyard Ultra World Championship last October with all the rain? What about the BPN Go One More Ultra that just happened like last weekend? They had rain in Texas for the entire time, it seemed like.
didn't follow it,
Okay.
but I could imagine
Okay.
it.
Yeah, so the storms that came through, there was a storm that actually came through the race last year. The entire trail is just this puddle of mud. Some runners were
Nice.
running without their shoes because their shoes got too caked in mud that it was heavy. So they're running in rain and mud for some of the runners like 3 days straight.
Awesome.
A lot of runners cannot wrap their heads around continuing to run through these conditions when it's a choice, right? Like it's a choice to be out there. It's also a choice to be done and to choose comfort. And a lot of runners battle with wanting to go far, knowing that they can go far, but they haven't been able to draw that line of, I'm staying out here no matter what. This is my decision. This is my choice. I'm not going to choose comfort. Like they haven't been able to get to that point yet of choosing to stay out there versus choosing comfort. Do you have any advice in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, is going back to this idea of knowing that that's what our minds are built to do.
Yeah.
Like it's really uncomfortable. We want to be comfortable. We want to be safe in a warm bed. It's like I'm making hot chocolate right now. It's like you want to be safe. And what we're doing is by doing this kind of event, we're choosing to move out of that safety zone. And but again, having that awareness is that your mind is going to tell you everything to stop. There are some things we have to listen to. If I'm hypothermic, I need to get warmed up. And I know I've personally had hypothermia before. That could be dangerous and deadly. So you have to be able to recognize and listen to your body enough and know well enough. Is like, okay, is this crossing the line here? Is this going to put me at risk? Yeah. Okay. And and running with a broken leg. Is this going to cause damage? You're not going to be able to do this in a year, because I'm running on this broken leg here. Okay, you have those. Go into the race with those lines. These are the lines that I'm not going to cross. Okay, now know that my mind is going to try and trick me here and say I'm unsafe. When I've got layers of rain jackets, I've got my feet are doing well here. I've got my plastic booties on underneath my shoes. I'm totally I'm digging this environment you're setting up for me. And it's like, this is so, because there's so many different things you can do to prepare for that physically as well. It's like, okay, it's going to rain like hell. How am I going to stay warm and dry? What are the things that my mind is going to go beep, beep, beep? This is dangerous. Okay, how are you going to stay warm and dry? Okay, maybe taking a hot water bottle, tucking it in your jacket. Great, that's awesome. Now you're going to take your Snickers bars, every hour, whatever it is to keep warm, and then keep moving. But know where that line is. And say, have I reached that line? No, haven't reached that line. Okay. Now you've got this choice. You can keep moving, but your brain is going to try and trick you. That is its job. It's not trying to trick you. I mean, again, it's not tricking you. It's trying to keep you safe.
Yes.
And it's reading. This isn't safe. I mean, we think about some of your listeners may not believe in cavemen, but I'm going to go back to the cave people days. And where there's a saber-toothed tiger outside. That's dangerous. Okay, what do I need to do? Well, maybe I'm going to stay in the cave. Okay, I have to go outside to hunt, so I have to take this risk. Okay, I'm going to go out with my spear. I'm going to get ready for that. Our body's going to learn danger. Okay, hey, there's a saber-toothed tiger. Get ready for fight or flight. Here's this bad weather coming. I need to stay warm and dry. Otherwise, I'm going to die like my ancestors did. So this is our brains working. This is what it's supposed to do. We're doing something totally different and challenging it in a way that hey, it was built to do, but it's going to try and pull you to safety.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So know that that's going to happen. Get ready and practice it over and over again. It's snowing today. if I was training for, a backyard ultra, I'd be running in it today.
Yes.
All the races I'm training for, I'm probably not, it's not going to snow. If it is, great. I've already trained in it too, and I know I could run in it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love how simple everything is, right? Like, I think you make everyone feel like this is normal. Like this is what our brain is designed to do. It's not bad that you're thinking this way. And I love that approach, but it's also hard work at the same time to do this work, right? So I love that approach that you have, and also just those reminders to us that this is normal. Others experience it. This is how we were built, and we need to learn how to work with it. And yeah. So
take our time. Take your time. Be compassionate with yourself.
Yes.
Be kind to yourself. Get the help you need, and, reach out to someone like myself, that, can help guide you with that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, I don't have a magic wand, but I can help, I kind of think of myself as that mountain guide still,
Yes.
and that's where we're going to put the backpacks on and we're going to walk a little bit here, and it might get uncomfortable, and you're going to learn something about yourself, and you're going to help unload that and be able to do some of these things that you want to do, and figure out why you're doing them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I have 2 more questions for you before we wrap up today.
Okay.
The first question is, if you gave a runner 2 mental skills to practice before their backyard ultra, what would they be?
2 mental skills to practice. I want you to practice being present, and not just present where you are right here, right now, but open to, present to your thoughts, noticing your thoughts instead of, noticing the sensations, and not, you aren't just your sensations, you aren't just your thoughts, but you could notice these. Okay, and notice them passing by like clouds in the sky, or you use that metaphor, but that is part of being present. People say, well, I don't want to be present with this pain. I don't want to be present. Yeah, it's just it's noticing it. I'm right here, right now. I'm interacting with you. I'm having this conversation, and I'm having these thoughts. And I hear a noise behind me. My dog moved around, and that's okay. So being present, so you can practice that. That doesn't mean you have to sit in the lotus position and do mindfulness for hours on end. Go on your run and just work at transitioning to, what do I hear right now? What do I see right now? What was I thinking just now? And just look, and be curious about that. So I think that's one of the skills. And then the other skill is, oh man, they're all linked to other skills. The other thing is being concrete in your actions. What is it? How are those actions linked to my values and who I want to be and how I want to show up? Well, if you sit down and and look at your why and look at these values, and then link those values. What does being curious look like? What am I doing? What are the actions I'm taking when I'm being curious? If I say that's my value, write those actions out so you can, again, be present, open up to that stuff, and then take action. Do what matters. Do what matters to you right here, right now.
Yeah.
So it's 3 things. And you could practice those today, right now, going out on a run, you could practice it at lunch, you could, practice it in your next business meeting, how do I, I'm going to run, Neal said, run through this stuff, be present. Okay. I'm here. Okay. Yeah. So again, I think the biggest thing about being present is being able to be aware of those thoughts, feelings, and sensations, and also notice that you're not your feelings and they're part of you, but they don't have to control you. That you can notice them and be open to them and experience them, and that's normal, and that's part of what I want you to do. And then you could also kind of go, hey, I also going to do this right now. I'm not going to react to that and do something that's not helpful.
Yeah. Awesome. So I feel like we could talk about this for days, right? There's so much to talk about. There's so many rabbit holes that we can go down to. But is there anything that you want to touch on that we like really completely missed or didn't touch much on?
I think. No, we even touched on why it's snowing today. No, I think, I think, those are kind of my main things. My the gig, how I work, and how I think about things, and, and being, I think being flexible with it, being flexible, being compassionate, that gives you freedom. When I hear, there's this big thing on stoicism now, and we want to, I got to do it this way. Even the Stoics were flexible and compassionate, and that is being able to have that understanding of how I can do that and bring that into our lives, not just as runners, but as humans. Yeah. I think it allows you to grow. So I think we touched on everything.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Neal, for joining me today and really just diving into the mindset of backyard ultras. I think it's fascinating, and there's so much that we can learn and learn from every race, right? Like there's always something to learn and something to improve on. For runners who are looking to follow you, learn more about you, what's the best way to do so?
I think the best way is just following me on Instagram. And I've got 2 Instagrams, one with my full name, @NealPalles, NealPalles, and then really my business site, and I'm trying to figure out how to manage things, but it's @the.trail.mindset. And that's kind of, I've changed that a couple times, and that I think is my thing now, is the trail mindset. Yeah. And so I think following me there, you can, link up to my website, find me here. If you're in Colorado, look me up, say hi to me if I'm around, you see me at races. Jackie, you really interested me in backyard ultras now, because I'm like, oh, you're kind of cool, I could do this.
Yes.
I have, it's all a matter of the time and our goals too. It's like I like romping in the wilderness, and going out for days, and and that's my thing, and exploring that. But this is this is intriguing. I love how this works, and I could just sit there. I could probably just sit there and talk to people all day. Yeah.
Well, I think it's so interesting because you start with the same people every hour, so you could have those conversations, and you learn more about someone during the race than you could with someone all year.
That's so awesome.
Being in Minnesota, we don't have many trails. I'm on the northwest side. So if I lived in the mountains, I would definitely be running a lot of mountain races and just exploring the trails. But the backyard was kind of just my approach, my entry point into ultra running, because that was what was available. So I think there's just so many benefits and so many different ways that you can approach your running based on your goals.
Totally. Well, thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you asking about Outward Bound first. That took me by surprise.
No, I love learning how people get into certain things, how they decide to do certain things. So when I just kind of read that story, I was like, oh, I definitely need to ask about that.
Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for being on today. I will make sure to put your Instagram and your website in the show notes for everyone. For our listeners, I hope this episode really just changes how you show up in training, not just physically, but mentally, and gives you some things to think about with what you want to practice in your training and how you want to approach race day and what decisions you want to kind of make and choose between when it comes to race day. So until next time, please go 1 more hour and choose to go 1 more step. Thanks for tuning in to 1 More Hour. If you enjoyed this episode, hit follow so you don't miss the next yard, and share it with a runner who loves pushing their limits. I'd love to hear your own stories of going 1 more. Connect with me on Instagram at the 1 More Hour podcast. And if you could leave a quick review, it'll help more runners find the show and keep going when they want to stop. Until next time, Just go one more hour.